Hello everybody, this is Dr. Ahmed Amin Nasser, your biology educator, and today I'm going to talk to you about the second half of carbohydrates presentation. And we agreed that the sun has invested energy in our life through photosynthesis, plant photosynthesis, and production of glucose, the secret component for energy. Now, our body need our body needs to regulate the presence of glucose, and thus this happens through action of two hormones, insulin and glucagon. Insulin is the main anabolic hormone, is the hormone which is responsible for polymerizing small building blocks of carbohydrates, lipids, and protein. And on the other side, glucagon, which is the main catabolic hormone, hydrolyzing the big molecules of lipids, carbohydrates, as well as protein. So, kind of a stress hormone. So, between these two hormones, things happen to maintain a normal blood glucose level. Glucose homeostasis, as we said, by insulin from the beta cell of pancreatic islets and glucagon from the alpha cell, just neighbors of beta cells of pancreatic islands. So if after a meal blood glucose level is raised secondary to absorption of blood glucose, and of course we all know that glucose, once it's absorbed, it goes through the liver, portal circulation, and in the liver, like 10 to 15% only of glucose is digested, and the rest would go to the bloodstream where it is distributed to all cells of the body. Now, once the blood glucose level is getting higher, uh, beta cells will increase more insulin, and this insulin will bring this glucose into cells, into more building, a bigger building block like glycogen in muscles and in liver, and back to liver as glycogen. And of course, once their blood glucose is higher, glucagon will be decreased by alpha cells again. Now, on the other side, if the blood glucose drops, so insulin will be decreasing down to minimum, and also glucagon will be on the rise to push liver to produce more glucose by glycogenolysis, hydrolysis of glycogen, hydrolysis of the bigger molecules. I mean, not only for carbohydrates, but also for lipids as well as proteins. When things go wrong, like destruction of beta cells by autoimmune disorder or autoimmune mechanism, so then, alas, there's no more insulin. So the blood glucose will not find anything to push it into a higher level of complication or a higher level of polymerization. Not only that, but also because the blood glucose is not used by the body, so the body will be oblivious to the higher level of blood glucose, and it will receive it as if blood glucose is deficient. So what happens is the alpha cell will be called in action, more glucagon, and then more blood glucose, more rise of blood glucose secondary to glycogenolysis by glucagon. Also, that's called diabetes mellitus type 1. So type 1 diabetes mellitus is absence of insulin secondary to destroyed beta cells. What happens if things go wrong the other way? diabetes mellitus type 2. Here, the beta cells mildly destroyed, and also there might be some resistance to insulin action. So there could be insulin, uh, but this insulin cannot work because of high insulin resistance at the insulin receptors. So blood glucose will be still high up, and again, alpha cell will increase its production of glucagon, and glucagon will uh, uh, initiate glycogenolysis in liver, with further rise of blood glucose. And we call that diabetes mellitus type 2. It's either mild insufficiency of beta cells or insulin resistance, higher insulin resistance. So blood glucose homeostasis is very important, and when things go wrong, it is either diabetes mellitus type 1 or type 2. However, what happens with our consumption of sugar? Actually, we should confess that human beings are the only animals who can eat refined sugar. And let us see what this would do for us. All carbohydrates, including sugar, monosaccharides, and even disaccharides, sucrose, table sugar, which we eat every day, all these in the mouth will be acted upon by bacteria, Streptococcus mutans, and it will uh, digest or assimilate or metabolize these carbohydrates into lactic acid. And guess what lactic acid would do to our beautiful teeth? It will demineralize the teeth and cause what we call dental caries. So that table sugar or any type of sugar or any type of carbohydrate which are not sugary, if it stays longer time in the mouth, bacteria will do that. The only thing with sucrose that it causes glucans with which is kind of a thick paste adhering, causing to bacteria to be adherent to the plaque or to the teeth, and then these bacteria will work on sucrose and glucans to produce lactic acid, and this lactic acid will keep demineralizing our teeth under the plaque, and dental caries will end our uh, end our teeth and beautiful structure very prematurely. So that happens when we didn't even yet bring carbohydrates down to the stomach. And once it is down to the stomach, uh, there is enzymes, gastrointestinal enzymes, which will work on all carbohydrates and releasing these carbohydrates into uh, the building blocks, which is monosaccharides and disaccharides as well, which will be absorbed to the liver. And then in the liver, sucrose and galactose will be metabolized into lipids, and glucose, only 10 to 15% of glucose would be digested in liver, and the rest will go down to the general circulation. So any food actually can be classified according to how much it causes a rise in blood glucose level, and that's what we call that glycemic index. And the glycemic index is a number from 0 to 100, which is, for example, if it's 100, this means that blood sugar will be increased 100% after that sort of food. And if it's very low, like 10%, only like 19%, for example, after uh, certain sugars like sucrose, for example, when you take sucrose, sucrose will be cleared in in the liver into fructose and glucose. So the fructose will be metabolized and glucose will be in blood circulation. So it doesn't have a high uh, glycemic index. So certain foods like chips, biscuit, cakes, and processed food, and of course table sugar itself, will be having high glycemic index. And the low glycemic index, you can guess it, it is the vegetables and fruits, oats, beans, lentils, all these, all that types of food, all these types of food which have higher fiber content. And the high glycemic index, it happened to be with the low fiber content. The low fiber means that the easier to assimilate or metabolize and absorb the carbohydrates, while in cases of the low glycemic index with high fiber, it kind of makes a block on the metabolism or absorption, and also these fibers are not metabolized in human body. So generally speaking, we'll have high GI, high glycemic index from 70 or above, starting from baked potatoes, white bread, uh, cornflakes, fruit roll-ups, special cake, Kellogg's, and donuts, of course. Medium GI glycemic index, macaroni and grapefruit juice unsweetened. The low glycemic index, 55 or less, most fruits and vegetables, beans, whole grains, meat, eggs, milk, nuts, and so on. So, what happens when things go wrong again? We have seen at the level of the mouse, now we have seen at the level of the gastrointestinal tract and absorption and metabolism, what we call metabolic syndrome. Metabolic syndrome is a syndrome which kind of a cluster of certain things like high blood pressure, high blood glucose or glucose intolerance, excess fat, especially around the waist, like apple-shaped abdomen, and also abnormal cholesterol. This metabolic syndrome will cause high risk of heart disease, stroke, and diabetes mellitus. And guess what? If you want to treat that or prevent the complications, you have to have aggressive lifestyle changes, including healthy diet and exercise. Gout. Again, gout is caused by rise of uric acid. This rise of uric acid will make crystals, which will destroy the smooth surface of joints, leading to severe pain, swelling, and redness, and unbearable, agonizing pain in the joints, and uh, loss of function of the joints. And you know, insulin prevents excretion of uric acid. So after a very sugary diet or sugary drink, you will have a rise of insulin, and on the way of its function, insulin would prevent uric acid to be excreted, causing more crystallization, more precipitation, and gout attack. So if we want to stop all these things, including diabetes, especially type 2 diabetes, you can guess what we should do. A high fiber diet. This is the answer. A balanced diet, especially high fiber diet, is our way to have normal carbohydrate metabolism. And it's our way back to tuning in with the universe, which gave us glucose just for energy and gave us cellulose for structure and to prevent our problems, gastrointestinal problems, make it less cancerous, less incidence of cancers by increasing the fibers, and also the fibers itself will entrap the bile secretions, and then the body will be forced to renew the bile, taking it from cholesterol and bad lipids in the blood, the low density lipoproteins, and that will kind of create a healthy atmosphere of the gastrointestinal tract, leading to decreased incidence of cancer, colonic cancer in particular. So the carbohydrate secrets, alas, is known. 1% of the body weight can be the maximum amount of carbohydrates which are stored in the body. In human body, glycogen, which is the storage of carbohydrates, cannot exceed 1% of the body weight. More consumption of carbohydrates over that is very sad. You know why? Because it's going to be very bad fat. And fat is going to be our next topic of biological molecules. See you then. Thank you. Bye.